Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining today's Sunday stream, traditional community chatter, and news update from Moscow, Russia. It is 24th of May, 3 p.m. Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and hopefully, you will find this episode informative and useful, interesting. And in that case, please indicate that, leave some commentary, like the video, might help to reach people out there on these platforms on YouTube and Rumble that might have some interest to hear from Russia from pro-Russian standpoint, and your likes and comments might actually help with that. As always, during the community chats, first I will share with you a news segment that I have prepared for you, and after that, I will join discussions in the chat. In case you have a question or you want to discuss certain topic, you can send your question or the commentary either with a super chat on Rumble or through PayPal or Boosty platforms. Of course, I will react on it. And if these options are not available for you, then use capital letters, please, or capital Q at least before a question or the commentary that you want to be highlighted. And I'll try my best while scrolling through chat to spot all their comments with capital letters or the capital Qs. Okay, that's been said, dear friends. Let's go through some news now. And well, I will start with the latest update about a tragedy that happened in Lugansk People's Republic as a result of a massive drone attack on a Russian college that happened on 22nd of May. There was, according to Russian President, 16 drones that Kiev regime, with assistance of NATO, launched on this college, where dozens and dozens of teenagers were at the moment of their strike, and unfortunately, death toll from this Ukrainian strike have reached 21. Strike happened in Starobelsk, as you already know. RIA Novosti and many other media outlets, of course, are reporting about it. Basically, with the exception of Western countries, whole world report about this tragedy and yet another terrorist attack orchestrated by NATO member states and their Ukrainian proxies. So 21 people were killed in an attack by Ukrainian militants on the Starobelsk Pedagogical College. In LPR, Ministry of Emergency Situations Press Service reported. Also, a number of casualties as a result of this attack, according to different data, is risen over 60. More than 60 people received different level of injuries as a result of this attack. And Russian president said straight away on the very same day that Moscow will react on this terrorist attack and will retaliate. And that's exactly what happened past night. And I will get to that point in a minute. But when it comes to this tragedy itself, Russian Foreign Ministry shared today information with the public that more than 50 foreign journalists traveled to Starobelsk to report about this tragedy from the spot. More than 50 foreign journalists have traveled to the site of the tragedy in Starobelsk, where the Ukrainian Armed Forces struck a college, said the Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova. Although she also highlighted yesterday, that was, I believe, that BBC, CNN, and a number of media outlets that are registered here in Russia, a number of Western media outlets from collective West, including Japan, which is geographically obviously not really the West, but it's a part of a collective West nevertheless. So a number of media outlets refused to travel to Starobelsk and to report about this tragedy. And I guess question will rise. how long Moscow going to tolerate presence of the so-called journalists from the Western countries on Russian territory, when all they do is discredit Russia, insult Russian people on daily basis, right? And never report true about Russia. Why are we tolerating presence of these criminals on the Russian soil? That's the question. And hopefully this question will be answered, and these so-called journalists will no longer have a permit to work on the Russian soil. I hope so. Meanwhile, attacks on the Russian Federation that are orchestrated by NATO member states continue, and past night, according to Defense Ministry's update, 33 drones were intercepted over the number of Russian regions. To be more precise, drones were intercepted over the Belgorod, Bryansk, Vologda, Kaluga, Kursk, Oryol, Ryazan, Smolensk, 12 regions, Krasnodar Krai, and Crimea. A relatively small number of drones, one might say, compared to previous days when literally hundreds and hundreds of drones were launched overnight and were intercepted, mostly intercepted by Russian air defenses. I guess this low number of launches by Kiev regime and its NATO backers is linked to strong Russian retaliatory strikes past night, during the which Russian militaries deployed a third time Oreshnik medium-range hypersonic missile system. Russian Defense Ministry shared information about it. So the Russian Air Forces launched a retaliatory strike against military targets in Ukraine, including with Oreshnik missile. Ministry of Defense stated, in response to Ukraine's terrorist attack on civilian targets in Russia, armed forces launched a massive strike using Oreshnik ballistic missile, Iskander aeroballistic missile, Kinzhal hypersonic aeroballistic missile, Zircon cruise missile, air, sea, and land-based cruise missiles, as well as strike drones against military command and control facilities, air bases, and defense industry enterprises in Ukraine. Ministry stated, and Russian militaries also emphasized that their strikes objectives were achieved without providing any additional details on that. Some reports suggest that this time around, alongside the military industrial complex of the Kiev regime and their military infrastructure, Russian retaliatory strike was directed also on headquarters, not the main headquarters, but some of the headquarters of ground forces of Kiev regime, and also main intelligence directorate of the Kiev regime. Although outcome of these strikes is unknown as of now. And when it comes to map, by the way, of Russian strikes, you can see on your screen what Kiev regime reported. These lines represent direction of Russian strikes. Of course, Kiev and Kiev region was main direction of Russian drones and their missiles. And let me show you some of their footage from these attacks. Of course, many members of our community probably are interested to see Oreshnik strikes, and many videos have been shared on internet. I will share at least a few of them right now. So this is one video, for example. Many of you know how Oreshnik works. It has 6 main warheads, and each warhead carries also at least 6 sub-munitions, and all these sub-munitions are flying towards target with a hypersonic speed, and it's practically impossible to intercept. Only by luck any of it can be intercepted. And this is from another angle.
Блять, на нас! Ёб твою мать! Блять!
Та не кричи.
Да тихо.
So we can see from the beginning.
Блять, на нас!
Не кричи.
And the direction of precise direction of this Oreshnik strike, according to reports, was Belaya Tserkev area. Some reports suggest that her airfield was targeted by Oreshnik. Other reports suggest industrial facility was targeted. Hard to tell in reality what exactly was struck as a result of this attack. And I can show you another video of this Oreshnik strike from other angle. Let's switch it again. Speed is tremendous, of course. Speed of these warheads is tremendous, impossible to intercept. So reports are that about 500 to 700 attack drones were launched by Russian Federation during the past night. About 50 different type of missiles, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and so on, including one Oreshnik missile. Initially, there were reports about several Oreshniks being deployed, but in reality, according to reports, only one Oreshnik missile was deployed. And as I said, your friends, main direction of attacks was Kiev and Kiev region. In Kiev, mappers identify several areas of the city where attacks were conducted. It's industrial facilities or warehouses where Kiev regime is storing weapons, munition. You can clearly see there, identify visually some industrial area again. And when it comes to Belaya Tserkev, this particular map identified the area of strike as an industrial facility, this one that you see on your screen. But there are some other reports that are suggesting that some military airfield was targeted, possibly this one. But Defense Ministry did not share that much of details about this strikes. You might ask, dear friends, is this retaliation that Russian public was expecting? And I will say probably not, because fundamentally, this large-scale Russian retaliatory strike on the Kiev-controlled territory don't really changes calculation of globalist control regimes in Europe, because they simply don't care how many times Russia will strike on the Kiev-controlled territory. I mean, they just simply don't care. No matter how many warehouses are destroyed with Western equipment, Western drones and missiles, well, they can transfer more, because those drones and missiles and everything else is mostly built where? In the West, right? In European NATO member states, for example. And unfortunately, those facilities that Kiev regime operates in Europe, dozen of facilities at this point in dozen of countries, those facilities not being targeted. So therefore, why would globalists or globalist control regimes in Europe care about Oreshnik being deployed somewhere on Kiev controlled territory, or 500 drones launched, or whatever? Would they care? No. And when it comes to this strike on the Kiev controlled territory, not a single major decision-making center was targeted. Also says something, isn't it? Yes, Russian Defense Ministry said that during this attack, few headquarters of main intelligence directorate and ground forces were neutralized. But what about main decision-making centers, at least on a Kiev-controlled territory? Don't we know where those decision-making centers are? I'm quite sure Russian intelligence, Russian militaries know location of those places, but unfortunately, Russian president still continues to exercise restraint policy, and there does not green lights Russian militaries and the security services to take necessary actions, actually truly necessary actions to end this war, to put globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe into their place, to force them to capitulate, which will be actual end of the war. And I have no idea how long Russian president intends to continue these restraint policies. People expect Russian strikes on NATO member states that are directly engaged in a mass killing of the Russian citizens. That's what people, majority, I believe, here in Russia expects. And that's why when I went through comment sections on different platforms today to take a look at their comments from the people from here, from Russia, many people were disappointed that not a single main decision-making center was targeted, and not a single manufacturing plant on NATO member territories were destroyed. Manufacturing plants that are producing these drones and missiles that then are used in mass to launch against Russia and to kill Russian citizens. So this is not the retaliation that society expects. If you're wondering how would people react on it, this is not the retaliation that is needed. It's not bad, obviously it's not bad, but this kind of strikes on military-industrial complex of Kiev regime and military and logistical infrastructure is taking place on regular basis anyways, with or without Oreshnik, right? Expectation was very different and still is very different. And there are many people here in Russia are still hoping that Russian president will change his mind and his policy, his restraint policy, and the green light Russian military and security services to take all the necessary actions that are needed. Meanwhile, of course, globalist and globalist controlled regimes in Europe began, and all over the Western world began whining about these yesterday's or night attacks, let's say, not yesterday's, but these night attacks that Russian militaries conducted on their military logistical infrastructure of their hostile side, and okay, позови. And in all seriousness, I don't give a damn what European elites have to say about anything whatsoever. What is unfortunate, looks like Russian leadership still cares what Western elites might say or think. And when Russian president was commenting on this tragedy in Starobelsk, he said something on the line that Kiev regime is conducting these terrorist attacks on the Russian civilians to provoke our retaliation, so that then this will be used for propaganda purposes by their Western masters. I mean, why we care? Honestly, I mean, that's the question. When I was listening to Russian president, the only question I come up with, I mean, why you care? What Western elites gonna use against us in propaganda purposes or whatever? Why you care? These are enemies of ours, right? Western elites are our enemies. Why you care what they think? All you should care is how to neutralize those enemies, right? But yet again, unfortunately, through centuries, this very strange fixation on Western elites by Russian elites continues. I don't know why. Hard to explain. And dear friends, I will come in a minute. I have to take a 1 second pause, dear friends. Literally 1 minute. So I'm back. My apologies, dear friends. I had to take this little break to deal with some little situation there, and so yes, that's where we are really. For whatever reason, Russian elites historically have this unhealthy fixation on the Western elites, and they care very much. Many of them care very much what Western elites will think, which is insanity, to say the least, which is insanity, right? And hopefully soon Russia will have a leadership that truly does not give a damn about Western elites whatsoever, as I do, right? I don't even consider them to be freaking, I don't know, man, elements worth to stand next. I would not shake hand with those criminals, mass murderers, genocidal maniacs that Western elites are, right? And yeah, this has to change. This insanity has to change, by the way. Hopefully it will. Hopefully it will, although probably not under the current leadership. Anyways, of course, Western criminals, Western propaganda elements, so-called politicians, public figures, going to push the narrative that Russia is targeting civilians. That's all they do, by the way, right? These despicable elements. But I'm going to show you a video of one of the areas that was struck, and you'll be the judge what you see and hear in this video. You tell me. It's surrounded by civilian area, but facility that was struck was not really civilian, because just look and listen. There is secondary explosions, isn't it? It's hard to miss. There is secondary explosions, right? And you're not gonna see this video in the West. You're not gonna see this video in the West, by the way, from Western media outlets. Am I correct? And it's in, look, it's in a civilian area. This warehouse packed with weapons was in civilian area. Right? Okay. As additional confirmation, your friends, that Western so-called elites never ever can be trusted, and definitely Western propaganda cannot be ever trusted. So that's what is known for now. Large-scale attack or retaliatory strike on the Kyiv regime, on Kyiv-controlled territory, but unfortunately not necessarily what people were expecting, many people here in Russia, because fundamentally this Russian retaliation changes nothing. Western ruling class, globalist controlled regimes all over the Europe will continue to manufacture all the long-range striker weapon systems that are then used against Russian Federation. They will continue to finance the regime, provide with whatever, right? As long as there is anybody to forcefully mobilize on the Kyiv-controlled territory and throw into trenches, globalists will continue to support. Only way this insanity can stop is if we, Russian Federation, will strike back on these NATO member states that are directly involved in this war against Russia. That is US, UK, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Finland, Denmark, Netherlands. Do I have to continue? All of them should be struck on legit targets, of course. I'm talking about retaliatory strikes on legit targets, and to make sure that collateral damage either going to be completely avoided or to be as minimal as possible. That's where I stand, and that's where majority of Russian citizens stand. I'm 100% convinced in that. And unfortunately, Russian president stands on other page, for now at least. But things might change. Because, dear friends, This this autumn, we're going to have parliamentary elections here in Russian Federation, and if Putin continues, implementing his restraint policy, I'm quite sure he's going to lose majority in the parliament. I'm quite sure about it, that he will lose majority in the parliament, and I don't think he wants to go down in history towards the end of his political career as a politician who lost public trust towards the end of his policies, right? So I don't know how informed he is about true developments. I have some doubts about the level of his knowledge about everything that is happening. I'm more increasingly inclined to believe that he's being kind of isolated from true information by certain elements in the Kremlin administration, right? But yet again, this is topic that counterintelligence service has to deal with, right? But it's not just me; many other people here in Russia are beginning to believe that Russian president is being manipulated by fifth column, which is unfortunately very powerful and looks like can influence even policies of the Russian leadership. Unfortunately, but this is my take. You might have different opinion, but that's what I think. So yes, big strike, but fundamentally it changes nothing. That's all it is, really. Also, some other news difference. And if you have any questions, that we can of course discuss any topic in a community chat segment, right? But right now I want to share a couple of more news for the news segment. Poland received its first free American F-35 fighter jets. Well, militarization of Poland is of course gaining momentum, and it's not just Russia that should take care of this situation, but other neighbors of Poland too, and Germany included, because I'm quite sure it's only a matter of time, 10, 15 years maybe max, and Poland and Germany gonna end up in a war. I have no doubts. Also, TASS News Agency and many others, by the way, are reporting based on Western media that draft US-Iran memorandum stipulates 60-day ceasefire extension, allegedly. One of the original reporters about this matter is Axios. So draft bilateral memorandum on peace between United States and Iran envisions extending the ceasefire by 60 days, during which talks on full-fledged peace agreement will continue, Axios portal said, citing the document. During the ceasefire, navigation via the Strait of Hormuz will resume and Iran will be able to sell its oil freely, according to Axios. And Iranian media is also reporting about this alleged memorandum or agreement, that preliminary or temporary agreement that is reached between Tehran and Washington. Let me share with you what Iranians are saying about it. So the situation in the Strait of Hormuz will not return to what it was before the conflict between the US and Iran. Tasnim reports commenting on the memorandum currently under discussion between their countries. Information about the details of their preliminary possible agreement indicates that if the memorandum of understanding becomes an agreement, the situation in the Strait of Hormuz will not return to the pre-war state. Agency said. According to our agency, the document proposes a return to pre-war vessel transit levels within 30 days. Tehran emphasizes maintaining sovereignty over the strait. So control of the strait is gonna still be in hands of Tehran, and I guess they will continue to collect taxes on the passing vessels. According to our initial agreement, Washington is obligated to lift sanctions on Iranian oil during their negotiations. US is required to unfreeze some of Iran's assets. New York Times reported that this amount involved was $25 billion. The removal of enriched uranium from Iran is not a part of this preliminary agreement that sides are working right now in this memorandum, which is interesting. In addition, fighting will end on all fronts, including Lebanon, which Israel opposes, Tasnim added. And, well, dear friends, do I have to explain that this is all BS, right? This is all just BS, nonsense, right? Washington wants to gain some time because U.S. militaries, neither U.S. militaries, neither Israeli militaries are in a position to maintain high level of military pressure on Iran right now. They can strike Iran with another couple of thousand missiles for a week, right? They are well capable of maintaining such a high level of pressure when hundreds of missiles are launched on daily basis. They can do it for a week. Maybe they can stretch their missiles for 2 weeks, right? For 2 week strikes. And that is that, right? And they're not going to achieve much, isn't it? They will kill more civilians with these attacks, but fundamentally they wouldn't be able to change anything, right? And that's why U.S. leadership was that focused on to bring in NATO, European NATO member states into this war, right? Because they can deploy another 5,000 to 7,000 long-range missiles that U.S. lacks. As of now, even though a number of European NATO member states deploy their military assets towards the Middle East, as of now, they are kind of playing this game of neutrality, but it's only a matter of time when they will also get engaged. I strongly believe in that, and I'm quite sure, by the way, towards the winter, they're going to be ground invasion of Iran, when literally weather conditions are less demanding than it is during the summertime in the Middle East, right? So all Washington is doing now is buying some more time to prepare as much as they can for ground invasion. That's all it is. So unfortunately, I don't see any real possibility or real indicators that we might see end of the war between Iran, US, and Israel. Not happening. Western ruling class wants to keep this region, Middle East, cut from global economy for as long as possible and for as much as possible, and their peace is not an option for them. It is what it is, and I explained my take on all this situation many times before. If any questions, I will happily answer, but I'm not going to repeat my take now, my reading of the big picture right now. And you might ask, dear friends, well, US can like strike for a couple of days, then stop, then after several months or after several weeks strike again, and that will keep our situation alerter in a region, of course, and that will keep region itself partially isolated from the rest of the world. Why US did not strike already? And the only answer I have on that, dear friends, is that I think Americans are afraid, American leadership is afraid that Iran would not stop. If US will go ahead together with Israel and strike Iran now with the intention to maintain just this limited, to go for limited strikes, right, for a couple of days or the week, Iran would not stop then. Iran will continue its military operations, and Iranian militaries, Iranian leaderships made it clear that geography of Iranian retaliations on its enemies will widen big time. And they will not stop. And eventually, US will be literally forced out of the region by Iranian militaries, because there is no way US going to be able to protect its military bases, military assets in the region from Iranian drones and missiles, right? And this is already proven, by the way, according to even Western media outlets. More than 200 different facilities on US military bases were destroyed, completely destroyed or significantly damaged as a result of Iran's missile and drone strikes. So only reason why US and Israel, or US first and foremost, right? Israel without US is not really capable for much. Excuse me. Only reason why US is not attacking, it did not attack again Iran in past several weeks since this so-called ceasefire is in place, is that they are afraid that Iran will not stop. And one should keep in mind that Iran agreed on this ceasefire only because of Chinese involvement, according to many experts. Beijing asked Tehran strongly to agree on a US proposal to cease the hostilities for the time being. Iran wouldn't agree on the same BS again. But Iran not going to attack first. That's also something to keep in mind. Iran not going to attack first, so therefore, US will probably try some means to maintain instability in the region, to keep this escalatory ladder in place, right? And at the same time, prepare a ground invasion, which will most likely take place towards winter. And when it comes to this 60-day memorandum, even Trump acknowledged the existence of such memorandum. Iran agreement largely negotiated, he wrote on his Truce social, but I mean, can we take Trump's word for face value? I mean, no, right? Trump already proved that he's a chronicle liar, right? And he's personally involved in a deception, which should be insulting for a president of a nuclear superpower. But according to reports, even according to Israeli media reports, Western media reports, during the first attack on Iran, when there was negotiations going on, right, U.S. president was personally involved in a deception operation. Iranians were caught off guard. That's why Iranians were caught off guard first time. But second time, Iranians knew what was going to happen, and they were ready, and they proved it. And as an additional indicator that all these talks about the escalation from American side is total BS, we have CBS's report that Pentagon, that TASS news agency shared here in Russia with the public, the Pentagon or US intelligence community preparing for strikes on Iran this weekend. So strikes are still on the table, right? US administration, specifically their Pentagon and intelligence community officials, are preparing for a fresh round of military strikes against Iran within the next 3 days. CBS reported, citing sources. So yesterday there was no strikes. Today, as of now at least, there were no strikes. But who knows? Who knows, right? I'm telling you, the only reason why US is not attacked Iran already is that they are afraid that Iranians will not stop. They are afraid of consequences because Iranians will not stop, and US is in no place to maintain high level of military pressure on Iran. They can bomb Iran with long-range missiles for a week, for 2 weeks, but that's it. While Iran is in a position to methodically obliterate US assets in the region and also hunt down US assets globally. I'm quite sure about it, and that's why some Iranian officials and militaries said it publicly, that geography of war will widen if US attacks again. But they might attack anyways, right? Because after all, decision making depends on globalists and their neocons, right? It's not Trump that makes any decisions, really. He is on a hook of Zionists, and Zionists are allies, historic allies, one might argue, to European aristocracies, European elites, right? European ruling class, and this European ruling class is a major driving force in among globalists, right? Anyways, a couple of more news. Yesterday, there was yet another clown show in Washington, not far away from White House. Some disturbed element opened fire, allegedly towards White House, and was killed by security services. Okay, I mean, I don't really care, right? This kind of clown shows, which bloody clown shows, by the way, because people are getting hurt by this stuff, but this kind of bloody clown shows can be orchestrated by CIA and Mossad and MI6 literally on daily basis. And because Trump's administration or the leadership, American ruling class, has no shame, by the way, they don't care about reputation. how come that every other day something is happening, either in regards to White House or US president? What the hell? What's going on? But they are so low IQ people, elements, American ruling class and their intelligence stuff, that they don't care. They don't understand that they are putting US in very, very sad place, actually, right? This kind of stuff is one might argue this kind of stuff maybe is a normal sort of in some undeveloped quasi state, but I don't know. Last time I checked, US was pretending to be world's major superpower. It does not look like that, really. And you know already, of course, dear friends, that Tulsi Gabbard resigned, head of US intelligence community, resigned. She stated that the reasoning is some family matters, and her family is facing really, really serious trouble. According to reports, her husband is fighting with her deadly disease, and Tulsi Gabbard, of course, understandably, prefers to stay behind her husband and spend time with him instead of being acting as an official. But same time, media reports in the West, at least, are indicating that allegedly Gabbard was forced to resign by Trump's administration. And of course, I don't know what is true. But many experts in the field are saying that CIA reclaimed the control over their intelligence community completely now when Gabbard is gone. Allegedly, plot to remove Gabbard was originated in CIA and in deep state, basically. Could be case, and by Zionists too. Although Tulsi Gabbard, in her statements, disappointed the vast majority of her supporters probably when she was coming up with her Zionist talking points, right? And she discredited herself. I mean, let's be real, by the way. Tulsi Gabbard discredited herself big time, and I don't think she can. I mean, who knows, man? American people will decide on that, but I think it will be very difficult for her to maintain political career or to hope for a political career in the US after she discredited herself so tremendously. But it is what it is. Also, China delivers a massive 75,000-ton aid package to Cuba. 15,000 tons of rice has been unloaded at the port, and this is a good news, of course. Cuban people, of course, need every assistance, every help that they can get from a world community. And this is just a drop in the ocean. You know, China and Russia are sending some aid to Cuba. Other countries probably are also trying to do the same, but unfortunately, this is definitely not enough. And looks like a world community, the so-called world community, is so weak that it can do nothing to neutralize this illegal embargo and blockade that US is imposing on 10 million Cubans, by the way, right? While endangering all of them with the starvation and everything else. And that's a shame on humanity that US is able to commit crimes against countries left and right, crimes against humanity itself, and no one is able to stop them. It's a shame, but it is what it is, man. I'm afraid before midterm elections, Washington will go ahead with their final assault on Cuba to recolonize this island nation. That's what I think is going to happen. And I want to end news segment, dear friends, on this report that Pentagon has released second part of UFO files, and no one cares. Literally, man. They are so discredited. US state institutions, US ruling class is so discredited that no one even cares when they share anything with the public, because no one trusts them. And everybody believes that this is some sort of a deception again. And probably it is, man. Probably it is, isn't it? So therefore, I'm not going to go into details, what was released and so on. I have seen a couple of videos there, nothing extraordinary there, by the way. Easily can be explained there by natural some phenomenon or some classified military project. But nevertheless, trust is absent when it comes to Western ruling class, when it comes to US ruling class, and therefore whatever they're going to share with the public on some specific topics, always going to be taken with a mountain of salt, or no one even going to bother to take a look at it, right? That's where they are, American elites, really. And that's all for a news segment. Short one, by the way, right? And so now we can have a community chat. As I said, dear friends, you can either send your question or the commentary either through super chat or round feature on Rumble, or through PayPal or Boosty. I see one super chat on Rumble. from Scooby, and also there was a donation earlier today. There was a donation on a PayPal, and I will start highlighting from this super chat and the donation, and then we will continue. Let me also check Boosty, by the way. Yesterday, one member of our community left Patreon, unfortunately. But of course, I'm grateful to everyone who ever supported there and continues to support. Maybe today we will have new members on Patreon. So this is donation that came from PayPal today earlier. Why is there so much talk about declining fertility rates in the media all of a sudden? Have they been listening to Scooby? Thank you very much for your donation. I would not mention the name. Thank you very much for your donation of $15, 13.66 USD. And well, I don't know. I mean, what you mean here in Russia? Topic was always very relevant, and there is plenty of programs in place that government is financing to stimulate younger people to create families and to have babies, right? Many babies. I would not say it works perfectly well, because we are still facing demographical issues, but nevertheless, topic here is very relevant, and of course more needs to be done, but the government is trying to stimulate young people to make families and have babies. There is many programs in place that are financed by government on that. When it comes to other parts of the world, well, one way how we can explain attention towards demography is that with the relevant improvement of life, of course, life expectancy is also increasing, and people are living longer, and I guess governments worldwide, economists, financiers, maybe they have a fear that at some point working class would not be able to finance retired lives of their retired people, right? Pensions and so on. And maybe that's why attention towards demography is increasing to basically, somehow stimulate increase in birth rate increase, right? So that there will be more people that work and pay taxes, right? I think this is some fine economical matters are behind this increase in attention to this matter. Most definitely, this should be one of the main reasons. So thank you very much, Scooby. I believe this is your donation, so I have to mention. I have to thank you personally. So thank you very much, Scooby. I believe it's you for this donation through PayPal. Thank you. And we have a fundraising, isn't it, today? It's traditionally, by the way, on Sundays, we have this fundraising, community chat and fundraising streams. And if you like my work past week, and if you can to support her, please consider to do so. Under this video, you will find all the links that can be used for this purpose. And there was also super chat also from Scooby. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat. So for Russia, widening the war to include several more fronts when already winning is stupid. For the Western, their opposite is true. Does this simple strategic reality not explain the restraint? No, it does not, Scooby, because when you are mentioning second fronts or third fronts and stuff, I mean, tell me which fronts you mean. European armies? Are you kidding me? Do you really taking seriously European armies? Honestly, man, I mean, let's be real here. Entire British army is like barely able to fill Wembley Stadium. You know. So, what second front? Who gonna be on that second front? This depleted British army, while being able to attack Russia with impunity. Oh, they are bold, by the way. British secret services, British militaries, they are targeting Russians, actually, right? Russian citizens. They are killing Russian citizens. And with the exception of a couple of dozens of members of the special forces of the UK, SAS or Special Boat Service, no one else was punished. No one else was punished. But if we retaliate on UK, on legit targets in UK, right? You think what UK gonna do? If they will even think about deploying nukes, then that will be last mistake British aristocracy, British ruling class will ever make, right? Honestly, let's be real here. And what they're gonna do? They're gonna deploy their freaking 2 brigades on the battlefield. Russian militaries will eat them at breakfast. That's all. What about Germany and Germany's military? It's a joke, isn't it? It's a freaking joke. French militaries were kicked out of Sahel region in Africa, isn't it? They were unable to maintain their stance there. You think French military is going to be able to do anything against our troops? By 2030, European NATO member states are hoping to be in a position to deploy 100,000 strong contingent by 2030. That is. And you think 100,000 European NATO member states troops will do what against Russian army, man? Come on, Scooby. There is no second front. We will eat them alive. That's how it is. So restraint cannot be explained by fear that, well, European NATO member states going to join the war. They are already in this war, right? They already are killing our citizens, and our duty is to strike back and kill, neutralize as many enemies as we possibly can. So this topic of second front and third front, it's a Western narrative, right? That's how probably they explain for themselves that Moscow is not retaliating because they're afraid that we're going to join. Who you? Send entire British army, man, on any of the sectors of the front line. And I would like to see what they are capable of, man. Honestly, man. They're not going to do shit, man. Half of them will have a freaking heart attack in the first week. Other half will be eliminated by Russian militaries. And that's all. So no, there is something different. Something else is going on. But a fear that the European NATO member states going to join the war is not the reason. I'm quite sure about it. Thank you very much, Scooby, for super chat there and sharing your take on the matter. There was also another super chat from Scooby. Let me highlight this one too. And also Viper gifted a premium subscription to the member of our community. Thank you very much, Viper, for this. These gift cards, by the way, that you can buy on Rumble are $5 donations, basically. You can buy these gift cards if you want to donate, and then you can give this premium subscription to other members of our community there, or you can just leave it as it is there. It's a $5 donation for every gift card anyways for this project. So thank you very much, Viper, for this gift card. And let's react on Scooby's super chat. Given most of their false revenue and their speculations of the AI boom occur in their investment part of the GDP calculations, is it not accurate to say GDP figures for the USA are also false? Oh, it is. I mean, this is a topic that we agree 100%. That's why I think PPP index is much more relevant, and not just me, by the way. At this point, probably very few people will argue with this, that PPP index, purchasing power parity index, is much more accurate to describe their state of economy and their society too in any given country. When it comes to GDP index, it's so manipulated, especially in the US. It's so manipulated, it's so inflated that I mean, it's definitely cannot be taken seriously. It just cannot be taken seriously. So therefore, I don't really pay no more much attention to GDP. Of course, every now and then, because people are used to this index, every now and then there are reports that are using GDP index, but it's not correct. And also Scooby here is commenting, even GDP per purchasing power parity is flowed through honestly. I'm not sure I do understand there. I mean, my English is not that good. Scooby, keep that in mind when make it a little easier. Sometimes I get confused there. So I don't know how to react on this, but I believe PPP is much more accurate index than GDP is. GDP is, especially in the West. I mean, you rightfully mentioned AI boom, right? It's these AI companies are inflated beyond their any limits, right? And that counts for GDP, which is crazy. which is crazy. While in reality, I mean, I'm monitoring many other channels, dear friends, from all over the world, including from America, and based on what I hear from Americans, economical situation is not getting any better. It's just not. Numbers on NASDAQ and S&P 500 and all that stuff is going up, skyrocketing, and life of ordinary people is not improving. It's exactly the opposite process is happening, right? So therefore, that information itself is indicates that this GDP and all these indexes and stuff, it's just BS, and that's it, really. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your very interesting commentary there. I agree with you 100%. And also, let me highlight, this is the gift card, by the way, that Viper just purchased, and I believe he gifted to a member of our community. This is a gift card. You can buy these gift cards on Rumble if you want to donate, or if you want to buy me coffee. Basically, that's what it is. You can use these gift cards as donation on Buy Me a Coffee. Unfortunately, I can no longer have a Buy Me a Coffee because they use. There was a change in administration. They blocked my channel, my page, a few years ago. But then there was and they said they are blocking my page because of my Russian citizenship. They were so crazy, by the way. They actually write me later and said it openly, right? That they are blocking my account just because I'm a Russian citizen. Not because of violations of, usually they always come up, these platforms that are blocking people, they always say some usual stuff due to violation of some rules, and they're never explaining what rules being violated. No, Buy Me Coffee did not even care to play that game. They said, we are blocking you because you are a Russian citizen, right? And since then, I believe administration has changed in Buy Me Coffee. Some changes were made, and probably I can open a new account now, but they are using Stripe system to withdraw donations, and I don't have a Stripe, so therefore, unfortunately, I can't have Buy Me Coffee. Although it was a convenient platform, nevertheless, and probably still is. Many members of our community were preferring to donate through Buy Me Coffee. Thank you very much, Scooby, for a gift card. Thank you. And this is $5 donation, as I already mentioned. And let me scroll now through chat, dear friends. Time to time, I will monitor Boosty, also Patreon. If you can, please subscribe to my Patreon page. That will be a great support, of course. Right now, our community on Patreon is 137 people, and on the Boosty, only 13. So we are a tiny community, but Viper, thank you very much again for a gift card. Thank you. Viper just now again brought a gift card, which is a $5 donation. And dear friends, I will scroll now through chat, and please use capital letters or the capital Q so that I will understand easily. I will spot easier your question or the commentary. It just makes it easy to understand that this is directed to you. So let's scroll once again. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time and attention today. And in a few minutes' time, let's go check some Telegram channels for latest updates, dear friends. Probably you will be interested in that. Let's check some Telegram channels in a few minutes and then continue our conversation. It's a community chat today. So Stavros Karageorgis is asking, commenting, what is the true situation with the M14, M18? A lot of hype and dooming about it. Well, I think Stavros is asking about a land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia, and well, there are some indicators that Kiev regime with the drones did manage to establish certain level of presence alongside their highways. Is it critical? I don't know, but it's something that Russian militaries will work on, of course, because this land bridge, of course, play a key role not just to supply Crimea, civilians in Crimea, but here this land bridge is also, I guess, plays key role for logistics of Russian militaries in the Kherson and Zaporozhye regions. So this bridge is this is land bridge, by the way. I'm not talking about Crimean bridge. I'm talking about land bridge. So this bridge, of course, let me show you on the map. It's of course important. But I know some military channels are now sharing with the public information that Kiev regime established almost complete control over this land bridge, stuff like that. I don't know if this is true. I just don't know. I'm not there, obviously, right? This is the area that we are talking about, this land bridge, by the way, that connects mainland Russia with the Crimea, and there are some highways, of course, that are actively used for civilian purposes and for military purposes also. And there are attacks. There are videos that are shared on internet. So it cannot be denied, right? There are some videos that have been shared about attacks on vehicles on this land bridge. So therefore, situation is I don't know. Russian militaries will deal with it, I guess, because I don't even want to assess the situation because I simply don't know, right? In Russian segment, pro-Russian segment of internet, there are very little talks about any fundamental threats that either civilians or the militaries are facing there. It's only pro-Western, pro-Ukrainian channels that are reporting about catastrophic situation in this area. But in Russian segment of internet, topic barely is discussed. So therefore, I don't know. I'm not there for sure, and I cannot give you exact good enough answer. Stavros, thank you very much for your question. If there is any, let's say, if Kiev regime managed to establish its fire control with the drones over some highways, I guess Russian militaries will soon deal with the situation. They will come up with a solution. And I don't think they have fire control, by the way. Just because they did manage to strike a couple of vehicles here and there, it does not mean that they actually have a fire control over their land bridge. I'm scrolling, dear friends, now. NSPK is commenting, as I said before, Russia should attack NATO HQ in West Baden, Germany, coordinating Ukraine strategy, ASAP with the Oreshniks. Some NATO officers got to pay for this. I'm on same page on same page. All their legit targets should be eliminated, but and majority, by the way, I'm quite sure majority here in Russia will is on the same page too. With these retaliatory strikes on the Q-controlled territory, we are not changing, not influencing calculus of their globalist and globalist control regimes in the West, in Europe, in particular. We are not stopping them, right? Only way we can actually influence Western ruling class is if they are beginning to feel some heat. And they will feel this heat only if we are striking back on the NATO territory, including on headquarters that are absolutely legit targets, of course. But yet again, this is decision that is, I mean, it should be made 4 years ago, really, when NATO countries began mass supplies of weapons and munition to Kiev regime. That's when we should do this stuff, right? But for many years now, Russian president exercises this restraint policy, and only he knows what is the plan, really. I mean, what he wants to achieve with this restraint, I don't know. In my personal opinion, the longer we continue with restraint, unfortunately, more and more tragedies and trouble we are inviting on Russian people and the Russian Federation, because the Western ruling class sees this restraint as a weakness. They did not see this restraint policy as an attempt of Moscow to avoid a larger conflict or larger escalation. No, they see it as a weakness. They think Putin is afraid. They think Russians are afraid. While in reality, we don't afraid anything. And majority here in Russia actually is all about striking back on NATO. Even if that will cause direct war, majority is still on board, right? Because we understand this is the only way, right? You can, there is only certain ways you can influence the situation, right? With the strikes on the Kiev-controlled territory, we don't influence decision-making process in the West, not at all. It's so basic, isn't it? I mean, it's so basic, and therefore it's even more frustrating why we are continuing with this restraint policy. I mean, why we use Oreshnik and 50 other missiles to strike something on the Kiev-controlled territory when we could eliminate military legit infrastructure in Finland or Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia at once, right? 50 missiles, one Oreshnik would be enough to send a clear message and eliminate some legit targets there in these Baltic entities. Of course, little more will be needed to take action against other bigger NATO member states, but this is doable too. This is doable too, and we should. But you know, Russian president, as of now, maintains this restraint policy. I don't know, man. And that means tomorrow, Western ruling class will authorize even more attacks. They will build even more drones, more missiles for Kiev regime, and they will orchestrate even more attacks on Russian Federation, which will kill even more civilians. I mean, that's what's happening. I'm scrolling, dear friends, sir. I'm still online. I'm just scrolling to see if there is any question directed to me or the commentary. My apologies if I miss your question, dear friends. I'm just just scrolling fast. Scooby is commenting, did you catch Richard Werner on a Tucker show? Good interview with a good economist. I did not. I did not see that conversation. Right now, before I launch this stream, I was watching Glenn Disson's conversation with Brian Berletic. I went some 15 minutes in, and then it was time to launch live stream. So I will continue to listen their conversation after the stream, and then I mean I will go through some other channels too. We all are subscribed to same channels, I guess. We all are part of a bigger community in alternative media. Nidish Kumar is asking, Levan, where is Russian flotilla right now? I don't know, Nidish. No reports, nothing, not a single word in Russian media, at least in media outlets that I'm monitoring. Not a single word in the Russian Telegram channels that I'm monitoring. I don't know where that flotilla is. Should be somewhere in Indian Ocean by now. Should be somewhere in Indian Ocean. Nidish is talking about Russian flotilla, 6 cargo ships, 2 assisting ships, and 2 warships that moved there about on 9th or 10th of May from Russian Far East, and they entered their Chinese territorial waters, I believe. Probably they are now in Oceania somewhere, or in Indian Ocean, but I don't know. I don't know. And Nidish is asking. I was talking about this flotilla many times before because my guess was that this flotilla is moving some equipment towards Iran to withdraw enriched uranium. That was my guess. I had the 2 because there was very little information in media, almost nothing, just the fact that flotilla is moving. I was thinking about it and I come up with 2 explanations. Either this flotilla is moving towards Iran with special equipment and engineers to remove enriched uranium from Iran, or second option, flotilla is moving towards Africa to reinforce Russian African Corps. So I don't know which one is. But and I don't know where that flotilla as of now. Probably in Indian Ocean somewhere, and they're waiting green light to enter the Pakistani waters or even Iranian waters. Maybe it depends on final outcome of this talks between Tehran and Washington. Also, Nidish is commenting, Levan, our reporters made Rubio call Trump stupid. Hello, Juster, watch their video. It's funny. Okay. Rubio was talking about a lot, how close US and India are and strategic partners and this and that. And it was the US exactly, and still is US leadership that threatens India, right? With the sanctions if India buys Russian oil, right? Yes, there is a waiver now in place for another 30 days, I believe, but nevertheless, US was threatening India. And after all, it was US, isn't it? In 1971, that was, am I correct? It was India, it was US that was leading the charge against India. And if Soviet Union didn't get involved, God knows what would happen, man. I mean, I'm not sure India would survive as a state, right? So I guess Indian people know who their true friends are and who are just pretending. What? A worker louder NNG. Levan seems to believe American propaganda. What American propaganda? What are you talking about? In regards to which topic? I mean, anybody can be influenced by propaganda. Just point is, more you know, more sources of information you have. You have a better chances than to have your own opinion and not be influenced by the propaganda. But no one is completely safe from propaganda, by the way. I mean, they know how to brainwash people, right? These propagandists. So we all should be careful, no matter how much we think that we have good sources of information and this and that. We should always be careful. And I have to disagree with you that I've been influenced by US propaganda. Nah. And now there is a method, by the way, when people are fighting opinions, right? When they are fighting people with opinions that they don't like, there is one technique that are universally used everywhere, which is that if you say something that hostile will say true because it's an objective reality, then they will say, you see, you are repeating talking point of enemy. That's what happens with everybody in the West now, isn't it? If anyone dares to say anything critical about Kyiv regime or involvement of the NATO member states in this war, they are blackmailed immediately. They are attacked immediately, and they've been told, you are repeating talking points, Moscow's talking points, which is nonsense, right? This is just a objective reality. If you're just sharing information about the real stuff, and if your position is logical, then you don't repeating nobody's talking points. You are just sharing your own opinion. If I'm opposed to London's policies almost in every possible way, right? I consider London, British ruling class, to be existential threat for humanity, even. Right? British ruling class, European ruling class, generally speaking, I think is an existential threat for humanity, and I can argue why is that. But nevertheless, if British Prime Minister comes tomorrow and says, well, Moscow is a capital of Russian Federation, then in order to avoid repeating what British Prime Minister said, what I should do? Should I say, no, Moscow is not Russian capital? Of course, Moscow is Russian capital. So we should not fail to this trickery of the propagandists, right? We should not. Let me check Rumble. There was another super chat from Scooby, dear friends. Let me highlight super chat. And let's continue our conversation. Thank you very much, Scooby, again for your super chat and the dollar donation on Rumble. Scooby is commenting your complaint about inflation in Russia. I think Russia might be the only advanced economy that still has a rising real wages. Why worry about inflation when wages outpace? I'm not complaining about inflation. I'm not happy about inflation, right? And well, I know official statistics says that real wages are increasing, but you know how this average wages are made, isn't it? Some 10 people in Moscow city might have a salary of 10 million rubles a month, and that counts too, right? And me, I might go and work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and I will probably get, I don't know, 70K, 70,000 rubles, 80,000 rubles. It's easy to fail to these numbers, right? Easy to fail to these numbers, and misunderstood their objective reality on the ground. Yes, real wage is probably increasing overall, but it's not like skyrocketing, right? And same time, inflation is eating significant portion of this increased real income, let's say. And I'm afraid inflation is higher than official numbers, at least on the products that you buy on a regular basis. Maybe I don't know, man. Maybe bicycles have dropped in price, but if potato increases in price, you're gonna feel potatoes price. You're gonna see that because you are not buying freaking bicycle every day, right? So eventually, you have to live in a place to have a real understanding of stuff, to have a real understanding of inflation, wages, and everything. Because statistics, these numbers, don't really tell their whole story, right? Maybe wages dropped on I don't know, Chinese cars, and that will obviously influence overall statistics. But who gives a damn about Chinese cars, man? When I go in a store and the freaking tomato costs, cheap one costs 200 rubles for a kilo, it makes no freaking sense, man. Right? It makes no freaking sense. It's too expensive. And it's not even good tomato, man. If you want a good one, you have to pay 500 rubles for a kilo. That's what am I talking about. Yes, bread is cheap. Bread is prices on bread are fixated as far as I can tell. There is a certain basket that state tries to influence, right? So that prices are not being speculative. So that these goods will be affordable, and yes, there is affordable food, by the way. I mean, no doubts, but still, inflation is there, and I'm not complaining. I'm just stating the facts, right? And I'm not happy about it. Overall, economy is doing not bad because because economy withstand this pressure, didn't collapse and withstand the pressure from the West. No matter what, you still will have to say that yes, economy is doing not bad because it did not collapse. Because you are keeping in mind that there is a 30,000 freaking sanctions and the entire collective West is engaged in a war with your country, a literal war and their economical war. So therefore, anything is better than collapse, correct? So as long as the economy is standing, then it's good. It's good. But in everyday life, you are not thinking about this global stuff, right? You just go in a store and you see these prices, and and then you are not happy about it, right? Because stuff is expensive. Nidish Kumar is also commenting. Levant Tulsi talked about her biolabs 2 weeks ago. Maybe that part forced her to resign. I don't know. I mean, I think her after her deputy, it was her. I mean, Kent was related with Tulsi, or after Kent resigned, former head of counterterrorism in US, there was already rumors, isn't it, that Tulsi going to be next, and there was even expectations. There was even expectations that Tulsi Gabbard would resign due to disagreement with this attack on Iran, but she did not. She did not. You see, she did not resign at the time. Only now, and even then, she stated that she is resigning for family reasons. So Kent was very direct in his statement, and that's why many people respect his stand. That he said what he was thinking, he was disagree with the policy, and therefore it was the right move on his behalf to resign. So one can understand that stand, but Tulsi Gabbard resigned without a single critical word, really. But she was on her way out anyways. She was on her way out, I believe. And yes, I know I reported about her statements about biolabs. She was she said about her ongoing investigation of I don't know 120 US biolabs or something, right? 40 of which was located in Ukraine, about 40 of which were located in Ukraine, and some of them probably still are operational there in western parts of Ukraine. So this might also play some role to push her out, but I don't know, man. All I can say, man, some years ago, Tulsi Gabbard was a person that I was thinking, like, I was surprised that, how come that this person is a part of a system, and based on her statements, I mean, looks like she's a good person. She has some principles and morality and stuff. And then, by the way, she turned into a freaking Zionist, man, overnight. She became a Muslim hater. When I was listening to her, I mean, impression that I got, it was that she was just hating Muslims. She was no longer talking about some terrorists that are terrorists, right? And should not be linked to any religion, because terrorism is not something that exists only in radical Islam. No. Terrorism is something that Christians know well and are used extremely well, shamefully, right? So-called Christians. It's hard to even call those people Christians, right? So therefore, I mean, when she become this individual full of hater towards entire group of people, by the way, right? I was not okay with that. And when she began using the talking points of Zionists, she became a freaking Zionist, man. That was crazy. And I was disappointed big time. And I'm not even US citizen, by the way. I mean, on a human level, I was upset, right? I can imagine how disappointed Americans were that might had some high hopes on her. I mean, and then she became a member of Trump's administration. And there was many occasions when she as a high-ranking official of administration should take a stand, and she did not, right? And she resigned without saying anything about crimes committed by Trump's administration, right? And so I don't even care, man. Tulsi Gabbard is, as a politician, is dead, right? That's how it is. Oh, there was a dear friends, there was a $8 donation on a PayPal from member of our community. Let me highlight her, if I may. Thank you very much, Mark, for your $8 donation on PayPal and the commentary. And let me read their commentary. I will do this. So, Levan, why is this war being dragged out by your government? They could have finished it already. And that's a great question. That's a question for $1 million, Mark. That's a question for $1 million. And everybody is wondering what's going on. And I'm afraid, with the exception of a couple of people, Putin being one, and there may be a few others in his inner circle, no one actually knows. No one. And it is really difficult to now, after when it's a 5th year of a special military operation, I mean, it is really difficult to explain this in any ways, right? If we did not have the means to deal with the situation differently, that's a whole different story then. But because we have means to end this war rapidly, because we have means to neutralize threats, first and foremost, threats that are coming from the collective West, from the Western ruling class, globalists, neocons, and so on. And because we are not exercising these capabilities, that, of course, raises many questions here in Russia. And all it takes to go into a comment section, by the way, of any pro-Russian patriotic channel, either on Russian platforms, YouTube, Vkontakte, or on Telegram, for example, or on YouTube. And you will see the level of frustration in the public is tremendous. And everybody is asking questions, why? I mean, how long are we going to continue this way? I don't know. I don't know. You know, yet again, if we did not have the means to deal with the situation differently, much more effectively, rapidly, then that's a whole different story. But Russian leadership decided that they don't want to use some extreme force. Russian leadership decided that they don't want to burn down all the bridges with the European elites. Russian leadership decided that therefore this restraint policy gonna be implemented, and that's where we are. It's a 5th year of this war, and globalists are emboldened as ever. Globalist control regimes in Europe are emboldened as I don't know, man, as ever, and are launching more and more attacks on Russia, scaled up attacks. When there are days when 500-700 drones are launched, right? Even 1,000 drones against Russian Federation, and this number is increasing because there is a dozen of countries in Europe that are producing 24/7 these long-range drones that then are used against Russian Federation. Long-range missiles that Kyiv regime is launching, formerly Kyiv regime is also coming from the West, right? I don't know, man. I think there is we don't really have a good options now. Situation is so bad that I think we don't really have a good options as of now. But from options that I can see personally, there is 2. One, and none of it is good, by the way, because we are talking about war, and war is never good, right? One option is to retaliate on NATO member states now, on legit targets, obviously, in the NATO member states that are involved in this war against Russian Federation. and possibly get engaged in a round or two of long-range strikes on each other with their conventional weaponry, which will, of course, cause some damage and destruction, death, tragically, unfortunately. But that's the one. But eventually, Western ruling class will realize that they cannot sustain this. They cannot be engaged in this tit-for-tat exchange with the Russian Federation, and they will back down, right? That's one scenario. And the second scenario is we are doing nothing in terms of retaliating on NATO countries, and that means NATO countries will prepare more, prepare better, and by 2028, 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, they will provoke direct conflict with Russian Federation anyways, but on time of their choosing, right? Which will put us in a disadvantageous position anyways, and still, unfortunately, death and destruction will be unavoidable. So between these two options, one has to be, we have to choose one, right? We don't have a good options, because peace is not an option for the Western ruling class. They don't want peace. So I think if we strike back now, we will avoid a bigger confrontation in the future. That's what I think. But if we did not strike now, then in near future, we will end up even in bigger direct confrontation with Europe, and the European NATO member states will be more ready, more prepared for that clash than they are right now. So why we are giving them a time? Makes no sense, right? Honestly, man, makes no sense. But yet again, it's not us that are making decisions. It's those people in the Kremlin, and they have their own calculus, you know. If you ask me personally, I would make one warning in the first minutes of the special military operation. And I will say, if even single bullet will be transferred to Kiev regime by any one country, that country will be targeted. And if any one country would dare to send even a single bullet, I would strike that country. I don't give a damn, NATO member, not NATO member, I would strike that country. I would eliminate decision makers in that country, decision makers who send that single bullet. And I'm quite sure NATO member states will stay in line. They would stay in line, right? They would not cross so many red lines that they did. But yet again, Moscow chose different policy, and we are facing consequences now of that policy of restraint. You know. Thank you very much, Mark, for your donation through PayPal, and $1 million question, really, that everybody is asking, and unfortunately, very few people know the answer. You know. There was a super chat also on the Rumble difference. Let me highlight this super chat. And there was another gifter, premium subscription gift card from Viper. Thank you very much, Viper, for another gift card. So let me highlight this super chats, dear friends, and we will continue. I will highlight the super chats, then let's check for latest news, couple of media outlets, some Telegram channels, and then we can carry on with the conversation. So this is one super chat from Scooby. Thank you very much, Scooby, for another super chat and the dollar donation. And Scooby is commenting, what difference is there scope of devastation between an Oreshnik without conventional warheads and one with the warheads? I mean, who knows, Scooby? I shared the videos of last night's Oreshnik deployment, and looks like this time around also this was just warheads without explosive materials in it, warheads that were using kinetic energy for the destruction, right? And well, it's a question to physicists. I mean, these projectiles have such a kinetic energy that maybe if you add 10, 20, 50, 100 kilo of explosives, maybe that additional load of explosions would not really make their impact. The devastation did not really influence that much scale of impact when this kinetic projectile strikes, because it has a tremendous energy, isn't it? It's a hypersonic speed. It's coming down from tremendous velocity, and there are some satellite imagery, by the way, about aftermath of these Oreshnik strikes in Dnipropetrovsk on one of the facilities, and the entire section of the facility is just disappeared there. And that was done by this kinetic force itself. So I don't know how much weight, what volume of explosive materials you have to put in these warheads to make it like significantly more powerful than they already are due to their kinetic energy. This is question for military experts and physicists, actually, that they can calculate all this stuff, right? I'm not neither military expert, neither physicist, so of course for me it's difficult. And in a open sources there is no information about Oreshnik. There's nothing about Oreshnik in open sources here in Russia. Only fact that this missile system exists, only basics, right? But no specifics, nothing is classified. Thank you very much, Scooby, for this super chat. And there was as I said, dear friends, there was a gift card, premium gift card from Viper. Thank you very much, Viper, again for your donation and this premium gift card on Rumble. And there was another super chat from Scooby, I believe. And dear friends, if I may, I will drop a link to my Rumble in the chat on YouTube. And if you have an account on Rumble, subscribe if you can. So another super chat from Scooby. Once again, thank you very much, Scooby, for a super chat and the dollar donation. And Scooby is commenting 60 Minutes, USA Media did a segment on Iran bypassing blockade, and they're exporting more oil than before the war. Well, I have not watched their 60 Minutes report, but and could be true, because day before yesterday I reported, isn't it, that Iranian supertanker did manage to pass through Strait of Hormuz despite blockade, and docked at the Khark Island, which is towards the end of the Persian Gulf. So how this vessel managed to bypass US blockade? So therefore, 60 Minutes might have a point. I'm not going to go into details. Does Iran sells more oil now than before, or same volume or little less? But probably there are some ways how Iran will continue to do it. For example, Iran can transfer by ground oil to Iraq, right? Or by vessels. On Khark Island, Iran can load their tankers, then move these tankers towards Iraq, then transfer this Iranian oil into Iraqi tanker, and there is no blockade for Iraq, right? And Iraq can sell it. Or Iraq can buy oil from Iran and then just resell that oil and make some money on that. Qatar might help with this. Even Kuwait might help with this, by the way, right? Because Kuwait don't want to lose its statehood. And the only force in the region that can stop Iraqi militias that considering Iraqi Shiite militias that are considering Kuwait to be their historical land is Iran. Only Iran can influence Shiite militias in Iraq, right? So there is very many nuances there, and many ways how Iran can actually bypass this blockade of US. And therefore, this blockade is like media campaign, isn't it? This blockade, topical blockade, is just an attempt on behalf of Trump to just save the face, kind of. Although I don't think it works really. But it creates distraction, though. It does. This blockade creates some additional distractions in terms of navigation in a region, right? And that makes all regional countries unhappy. So 60 Minutes, even though I did not see that program, they might have a point. Iran, technically speaking, have an opportunity. There are technical opportunities to actually continue selling oil, right? Easiest one is to just transfer oil to Iraq, either to ground or to sea, not sea, but Persian Gulf, right? Then from vessel to vessel, you can pump this oil and then sell it as an Iraqi one or something like that. So, might be the case. And also, we should not forget that as longer this crisis continue, all regional countries, including Iran, will invest in alternative import-export routes, right? And one of the ways of this alternative, one way at least, let's see, or several of this alternative is a northern way. If Iran implements infrastructure to transport oil towards Caspian Sea, then they can sell their oil to Russia, and Russia will resell that oil. Or there is a more difficult way, but doable way, is to use trucks, thousands of trucks, fuel trucks, packed with the oil that will go from Iran to Central Asian republics and then to China, for example. Or this oil can be refined in Central Asian republics and then sold by Central Asian republics as a petrol product, and they will make some good buck on top of it, right? So if anybody in Washington really were thinking that they're gonna actually choke financially and economically Iran after decades and decades of embargoes and sanctions and so on, then I mean those people were very, very wrong, to say the least, right? Iran is neighboring with I don't know how many countries, man, like 10 countries, directly or indirectly. In the Persian Gulf alone, there is Oman, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and that's Persian Gulf area, right? Then Turkey is bordering Iran, Armenia, Azerbaijan, through Caspian Sea, Russia also, by the way, right? Then I believe Tajikistan is bordering Iran, Pakistan, obviously, and Afghanistan. How are you gonna block this country, man? How are you gonna introduce blockade of this country that borders with this many countries? It's insanity, right? Thank you very much, Scooby, for your question and interesting commentary there. I'm gonna try to search for this 60 minutes video program. It is interesting to see. It is interesting to see what routes Iran is using according to 60 minutes to continue export of its oil. If you have a link, Scooby, please drop that link in the comment section on Rumble. Let's continue, dear friends. Justice is commenting, NATO wants to initiate more escalation. Unfortunately, it is true. It is true. And only reason why NATO, European NATO member states at least, leadership of European NATO member states are pushing for further escalation is because they are emboldened by impunity with which they are for many years now killing Russian citizens. Objectively speaking, those European NATO member states have no force to actually fight war with Russia, right? Either one-on-one or combined Europe against Russia. We will smash them, man. Honestly. European armies are pathetic. It's a joke, literally joke, by the way, right? It's a freaking joke. But politicians, these globalists and globalist controlled regimes, they don't care about it. They don't know nuances. They don't pay much attention to details. All they see is, they are attacking Russia and Moscow is only retaliating on a key controlled territory. So they are emboldened and they are pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And at one point, they're gonna, this will become especially relevant when Kiev regime will finally begins collapsing and Kiev regime's armed forces, right? At that point, globalists don't really have much option but to begin sacrificing other countries in this war. And those other countries that they are preparing to be sacrificed, they are NATO member states and non-NATO member states. Among NATO member states are Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, that clearly is being prepared to be sacrificed by globalists and their regimes that globalists control in these entities. Outside of, and there are other NATO member states will get smoked too, including Poland, UK, France, Germany, and Denmark and others, right? But when it comes to existential consequences of confrontation with Russia, of course, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and Finland will pay much more severely because they are right there on the border, and they will, of course, probably they will lose significant territories if it comes to direct clashes, right? And some of them might even use their statehood. And outside of NATO, there are Moldova, of course, that being prepared for to be sacrificed. West invested heavily in Azerbaijan to sacrifice. West was trying to use Armenia also to sacrifice, but Armenia has no land border with Russia. So all they can do, because they are in control of Yerevan, all they can do is force Russian troops, is demand from Pashinyan that he will, and Pashinyan is Armenia's prime minister. All Western elites can do is to demand from Pashinyan to initiate withdrawal of the Russian forces from Armenia. But other than that, what else
they're gonna do, right, with Armenia. Western ruling class try hard for many years now to sacrifice Georgia to orchestrate regime change in Georgia and other Southern Caucasus republic, and they failed, and hopefully they will continue to fail, right? Because unfortunately, in the past, they did manage to provoke confrontation between Georgia and Russia. So yes, there are countries that NATO leadership or leadership of NATO member states clearly pushing for escalation because they are emboldened, they are drunk with this impunity with which they were committing numerous crimes against Russia, and they are preparing number of countries to get sacrificed after they will exhaust Ukraine's capability to the maximum level, and they are close to that point, I think. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, did you see the fall in booking and the drop in hotel booking in FIFA after USA ICE comments? It's disaster. Oh, I don't. I didn't really pay much attention. I know there are some issues with the tickets. People brought some tickets, and they were thinking that they would get certain places on the stadium, right? And it turned out not to be the case. So many people are upset with the organizational side of this World Cup. Of course, ICE might create additional issues, but well, unfortunately, due to extreme politicization of this so-called international sporting federations, including FIFA, I stopped paying much attention to events that they are organizing, even on a level of World Cups. So therefore, I mean, recently there was Olympics, isn't it? I did not watch anything. Did not watch even opening or closing or anything. I just did not care whatsoever, right? And I'm gonna have a similar take on this World Cup. I just don't care. It's a corrupt organization, extremely politicized one. I don't care what they're gonna do, and I don't care which team's gonna be there. None of it bothers me, really. So it's a sad, man. I grew up playing football. At one point, I was actually playing in a team, and I was doing quite okay. Never wanted to be a football player, but when we are kids, we have to spend some free time on something, isn't it? And it's better to play football than to be in a gang or something. And so I love football, man. But due to this politicization of this sport, I just stopped paying much attention to it. And NSPK is commenting, don't believe that their population argument when it comes to China's economy, their technology drive, automatization, robotization, AI, all continue, less and less workers needed. Well, this is also true, isn't it, NSPK? With AI and robotization, and China is, I think, leading the field when it comes to robotization. I mean, in past 5 to 10 years, they made basically a revolution in this field, right? And so, yes, more and more people will unfortunately, AI will take jobs of many people, right? And those people will have then forced, let's say, opportunity to learn some other skills, to find some other place to other fields of work, right? So there is that. Of course, productivity will increase tremendously with AI and robotization.
That's also something. Well, dear friends, my apologies if I miss your question. I'm not intentionally going to miss any questions, by the way. When I see little capital letters or, you know, I see in Nidish's comment, Luan, no, if you want to look at economy, you must see per capita income, cost of living, and internal and external debt of nations is my main criteria. Well, purchasing power parity in many ways are based on that, isn't it? Because for $100, you can buy, let's say, I mean, just a simple example, for $100, if you go in any grocery store in US, average grocery store, let's say, right? You can buy certain volume of goods, right? In Russia, you can buy also specific volume of goods. In India, other volume of goods. In every country, this $100 will give you different volume for your bag, isn't it? And purchasing power parity includes this moment that you are also mentioning. When it comes to this per capita income, well, I don't know about that, because in US, formally, in US is leading this world, right, big time when it comes to income per capita. But in reality, standard of living is declining in US, and this difference is due to extremely inflated numbers on stocks, right? On stocks, these are Nasdaq and their NSP or whatever the name is, 500. These are extremely inflated companies that are trading with their papers there, isn't it? And that also counts as a part of economy, GDP, right? And that inflates income per capita big time. So US is leading the charge in this regard, but in reality, I don't think our standard of living in US is truly increasing or 10 times better than in a second country when it comes to income per capita. So, but of course, this is matter for financiers and the economical experts. I just always was skeptical about these speculative markets, right? And this these exchanges, right? Stock exchanges was always speculative to me. There is nothing real, nothing realistic about the stock exchanges, right? Nvidia costs like $4 trillion or something. It's insanity, crazy stuff, right? How in Nvidia, company that 100% depends on other countries, can be most expensive company in this world. They don't own mines, they don't own nothing, right? When it comes to source of their chips, all they have actually is their know-how, patents. All they have is patents and couple of these manufacturing plants where there is cheap production in a 24/7 regime, right? But those plants don't cost 4 trillion, right? Nvidia fully depends on other countries for resources to produce its goods, and still prices on like for freaking trillion plus, and shares rise yesterday or day before again due to I forgot, there was some reports about, I don't know, something. US government is investing in the chips, NVIDIA chips. They want to build their data centers for security services of US intelligence services, and the US has like 30 intelligence services of different type, right? So of course, when this information become available, that also influenced on NVIDIA's stocks, right? That inflated NVIDIA stocks even further. And their GDP per capita also increased in America, but in real life, Americans not gonna notice it in any way, shape, or form. Scuba is also commenting, if firm wants to replace you with their aids because it's a less costly input than your wage. This happens on aggregate, we can assume. Oh, of course, it's all about cost reduction, isn't it? Whatever is more profitable, that's the direction that companies will go. That's what business does, right? They're all about profits. They don't care about staff, man. Never did. They are all about profits. Most, especially multinational corporations. Family-owned businesses are different. They have a soul about it. In family-owned businesses, you might find people that are working there for decades, right? There might be like 10 people staff. There's one owner and 9 other peoples, right? And maybe they are working together and making, I don't know, cheese, for example, for decades and decades and decades. That's a unique story, right? This company has a soul, I will say, but multinational corporations, come on, man. In these family-owned businesses, of course, it all depends on the relationships, but of course, owner will be much focused on staff, right? Much more focused on the staff, on needs of people that are working for the company. But in multinational corporations, whatever makes them more money, that's the direction they're gonna go. And if they're gonna fire 10,000 workers, they will. Facebook is firing like 7,000 people, isn't it? Right now. Programmers, by the way. Remember 10 years ago when there was talks about AI, everybody was saying, well, programmers, they're gonna have a job always. But others, they will lose job because AI will take over. Now, first people that are losing jobs are programmers, actually, because AI can program better, faster, and better. Smoky Sal is commenting, Levan, Alex Christoporo is in Moscow. Will you have a meetup video together? Well, I know he's in Moscow. I know Smoky Sally, and in previous years, I was always asking for interview, and he was always very kind and finding time to meet each other, and I was recording interview. This time around, I'm kind of, I don't know, because I'm toxic, right? I don't want to put Alex in an uncomfortable situation, and because I'm toxic, because my channel is shadow banned, and that's why I think I'm toxic. I think it would not be good gesture from my side to ask for interview. He will not refuse. most likely, most definitely, he will not refuse interview. But if because he will appear on my channel, that will create some issues for his channel. And algorithms, they know, right? They recognize your voice, they know who is there, right, in the video. So, I mean, Duran was very kind to me. I was invited there twice in the past. I invited them a couple of times when I was making interviews. And they were very kind to me. So therefore, I don't want to take any steps that might harm their channels in any way, shape, or form. And because I'm shadow banned, because I consider myself to be toxic, I would not ask. I would not ask for an interview. I was thinking about it, but and community always liked our interviews, isn't it? But last year situation with my channels were a bit different. It was not as bad as it is right now, when I expect to be blocked any day, really. So therefore, probably I would I would not ask for an interview. I can't. It just would not be. It would not be, friendly and nice if, because Alex appeared on my channel, if his channel will get some, to face some issues, right? Shadow banned even stronger than it is already. So unfortunately, we have to think about this kind of stuff, Yeah, what can I do? Thank you, Smoky Sally. And dear friends, yes, in case you missed it, Alex Christoforou from Duran is in Moscow. So he was in Belgrade, and just a few days ago, and then he came to Moscow. Also, Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, if you want to look at the... okay, we already discussed this matter. Levan, Kuba must offer free cancer treatment for Tulsi husband as a part of psychological warfare. That will be very speculative. Of course, Cuban leadership would not even think about it. But Cuba is very advanced. You are rightfully pointing out that Cuba is very advanced in terms of medicine. Very many even Americans, by the way, were going to Cuba. There was times when they were going to Cuba to study in university to become doctors. That's how good educational system is there, right? And it is such a shame on humanity that this world community did not stand with the people of Cuba and did not help them in a way that was necessary to actually free the island from this illegal embargo and blockade that US is imposing for decades and decades and decades. Lately, US imposed even stricter measures, and they are basically choking Cuba, right? And all of this is happening because of the weakness of the world community. Who knows where Cuba would be if not these illegal Western sanctions and blockade? Also, Nidish is commenting, Levan, have you ever lived in Islamic countries or under Islamic rule? No. I visited though. I visited Turkey once. I was already a journalist, by the way, so I visited Turkey, Ankara, Istanbul, a few other places. But I never lived more than a couple of days in a predominantly Muslim country. But if you're asking this to kind of indicate that these Muslim countries are somehow, less advanced than Christian countries, I will disagree. I will disagree. Many majority Muslim countries are in bad shape because of their Christian countries, actually. And there is one other country which is neither Muslim, neither Christian, but does tremendous damage to both, to Muslims and the Christians. You know which country I'm talking about. One should keep in mind, dear friends, that in terms of civilizational advance of humanity, ancestors of modern Iranians or Arabs, by the way, they play a key role, by the way. In without them, who knows where humanity would be? So we have to be just respectful towards each other, man. We might be different. We might have different religion. I'm Orthodox Christian, but and of course, Orthodox Christians are my brothers and sisters, right? First and foremost, your warm goes for your Orthodox brothers and sisters. But then, but just because I'm Orthodox, it does not mean that I cannot have a sympathy or I cannot respect or admire other cultures, right? So therefore, by the way, I think it's always demonic when entire groups of people being demonized because of the actions of few, right? And the Islamic world was demonized. Muslim world was demonized, mostly by Christians, actually, right? By Western Christians, let's be more specific on that. And this is unfair. This is just not okay. And there's nothing to be said about all the destruction of their majority Muslim countries that was done by Western Christians, Western Christian countries through centuries, actually. We have to be objective, isn't it? We have to be objective. And by the way, I'm living in Russia, and here in Russia, there is a traditional religions, and it's not just Orthodox Christianity, the traditional religion, but also Islam is a traditional religion for Russia, and also Buddhism. Buddhism is a traditional religion, and Judaism too, by the way, is a traditional religion. So, I know India and Pakistan has. I know in India there can be certain views on certain topics, right? Because and these views are influenced by conflict between India and Pakistan. I know where the roots go, right, in this regard. But nevertheless, we should never ever. We should never be on a. We should never support or agree with their collective punishment. Let me say it this way, because it's always wrong. It's always wrong. It's 2.5 hours, dear friends. 2.5 hours already. And there was a super chat There was a super chatter on Rumble right now. Let me highlight this, sir. And there was also another premium gift card from Scooby. Let me highlight this difference. Scooby, once again, thank you very much for your premium gift card and another $5 donation during this stream. Thank you very much, Viper. And Scooby commented, I leave the Islamic countries alone to develop and prosper, and they'll be more emancipatory. I mean, leave the Muslim countries alone, man. I agree with you, Scooby. I agree with you. Historically speaking, and I know a thing or two about history, by the way. I love history. And I live in a region, not today, but, I was born in Georgia, right? I grew up in Tbilisi, by the way, capital of Georgia. And in, history of Caucasus region, Georgia, obviously, and all the other nations in the Caucasus region, of course, history knows all type of relationships with all the religions, all the nations, right? And let me tell you, dear friends, even though there were some dark pages when it comes to relationships between Georgia and Iran, for example, or Georgia and Turkey, there were also, or Georgia and Arab Caliphate. Georgia was under the Arab Caliphate, by the way, 300 years, right? Parts of Georgia. And if you go in Georgia right now, so there was some dark pages, undoubtedly, tragic pages, but there were some positive pages too. And one might say that these Muslim countries were never focused on extermination of the people. They were never actually focused on extermination of the people. They were not genocidal, by the way. If they were genocidal, there would be no Georgians. They would not exist by now. Late in history, Ottoman Turkey became extremely aggressive in terms of assimilation. They were not necessarily genocidal, although after Ottoman Turkey get destroyed, New Turkey, led by Ataturk, they committed genocide, actually, genocide of Greek people, genocide of Armenian people. They were killing left and right, by the way, everybody that they did not like, right? But earlier in history, even though there were some dark pages, there were some positive and historically acknowledged pages too. And if you travel to Georgia right now, you will find you will see hundreds, thousands of churches, by the way. And these churches date back hundreds and in some cases 1,000+ years, right? And Georgia, most of its history was occupied by Muslim countries. You think there would be any church left there? No. What I want to say is that modern Muslim nations, by the way, their ancestors, they play key role in civilizational advance of the humanity. And we should not forget this, because this cannot be forgotten, right? Never. We have to be objective, by the way, right? And so I agree with you, Scooby. All we have to do is leave these Muslim countries alone, right? And they will play again crucial role in the civilizational development of the humanity, as they did in the past, right? That's it.
we should not be this much focused on religious stuff, man. Yes, religion is good. Religion teaches positive stuff when it's a proper interpretation. I know there are extremists, by the way, in all religions, right? Among Christians are extremists that are interpreting Bible in a freaking crazy way, right? There are in Muslim world, there are people that are interpreting Quran in ways that other Muslims say, what the hell? What's going on there? We disagree with that. There is in Judaism, same tendencies, right? There are extreme rabbis that interpret either Torah or Talmuds in ways that makes people go, wow, isn't it? There is this extremist elements in all major religions. But we should separate that, isn't it? We should separate that and be focused on positivity that comes from the religions, and therefore should not see each other as a freaking enemies, man. Right? We should respect each other a little more. I think that will be the good way to go forward. So I agree with you, Scooby. If it comes to aggression and terrorism and genocides, and I mean, unfortunately, Christian world that I'm a part of cannot be challenged in this, right? So much evil being done by formerly Christians. That's just objective truth. So I don't think we are in the position to lecture others, man, on anything really. So let's be good, man. Good people, friendly, respectful. That's all is needed, really. And there was a donation, your friends, right now on PayPal. Let me highlight this. A donation from Bald Eagle, Natalia and the Bald Eagle. Thank you very much, Natalia, and thank you very much, Bald Eagle, for your support and attention. $20 donation, sir, today through PayPal. And comment is, thank you, Levan. Keep up the updates. Thank you very much once again, Natalia and the Bald Eagle, for your support. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. And let's... Oh, dear friends, I'm going to drop again. Just give me a second. I'm going to drop address, link to my Rumble in the chat on YouTube. In case you have an account on Rumble, please subscribe. And my apologies if I miss your question, dear friends. Absolutely unintentionally. I'm scrolling and, if I spot question, I spot. A question from Martin Matter. Levan, do you think Russia will retake Odessa this year? This year, thank you for your question, Martin. This year, I don't know. But I strongly believe that Odessa will be free there and will join
Russian Federation. It's a Russian city, by the way, and should be in the Russian Federation. Odessa and Nikolaev regions will be liberated there. Russia will get to border with the Transnistria. There will be land bridge there towards Transnistria. I think Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkov regions will be liberated. At this point, things went so far that I think everything east of administrative borders of the Western Ukraine will be liberated, including Kiev. At this point, I'm more inclined to believe that not just southern eastern parts will be fully liberated from Kharkov to Odessa, but central parts too, including Kiev. And only Western Ukraine will remain separately and eventually will be reclaimed by Poland, which used to control 70% of it anyways before World War II, also by Romania and Hungary. But when this will happen, of course, I cannot tell you that, but I'm a strong believer that Odessa will be liberated and will rejoin Russia. As it should, man. It's a Russian city, for God's sake, man. What are we talking about? So, but time frame, I don't know. I would love to see end of this conflict today, right now. But realistically speaking, unfortunately, conflict probably will continue for maybe years to come, and will end when Russian troops will be on the border with the Western Ukraine. That's what I think. Dear friends, I said twice, isn't it? I said twice that we should check our for updates. Let's check a couple of media outlets for updates. Let's see if RIA Novosti is reporting any breaking news for now. Ministry of Defense has listed military targets hit by retaliatory strike in Ukraine. Among those damaged during their massive strike in Kiev and the Kiev region were facilities of Ukrainian military industrial complex, military infrastructure, as well as a command post of the General Command of the Ground Forces, the main intelligence directorate of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, and other command posts of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Basically, I've shared the information about these attacks. Let's see if TASS News Agency has some other reporter. Finnish president says Europe may engage in a dialogue with Russia this year. Well, Stab is one of their candidacies, isn't it? One of the persons that were allegedly considered by you bureaucrats as someone who will negotiate with Russia on behalf of EU, but
I don't think this will work, man. I know globalists are promoting Stammer big time. He was present in a recent meeting of Bilderberg Club, isn't it? True. Uh, but I don't think there are not many people in Russian leadership that would like to have any exchange of opinions with the Stab, man. Extreme Russia hater, extreme Russophobe, someone who can never be trusted. So it does not matter what he actually thinks. And let's check. Let's check couple of Telegram channels. Let's check couple of Telegram channels. And that will be it for today's community chat. We had a good chat, isn't it, dear friends? We had a good chatter. I shared the news segment in the first half of the live stream, and then we spoke about many topics. Guys, on Rumble, please be more pleasant to each other. Please, let's respect each other and each other's opinions. We might disagree on some things and agree on others. Nevertheless, let's be respectful, please. Don't attack each other. And let's check Telegram channel. Yes, I mean, if I see some continuation of negativity on Rumble, I will have to take some action, and I don't want it, man. I hate when I have to block someone, man. So let's check on Telegram, dear friends. This is the DD Geopolitics channel, one of the biggest channels, by the way, out there. So, well, Zelensky is walking around here doing some media stunt. Why he is allowed to walk around freely, I have no idea, by the way. Makes no sense. But, yet, as I said, there were about 50 journalists that went to Lugansk People's Republic in the Starobelsk to document atrocities committed by Kyiv regime and their NATO backers when they targeted college on 22nd of May, as a result of which 21 students were killed, according to reports, according to latest information. And unfortunately, BBC, CNN, Japanese media outlets, they refuse to report about this. They refuse to go to Starobelsk, and I think all the media outlets that refuse to report about this atrocity committed by Kyiv regime should lose their permit to work in Russia. I think that will be fair. Don't you think, dear friends? If you are a journalist and if you are not reporting about mass killing of their civilians,
then what kind of journalist are you? So BBC, CNN should be cancelled, or not cancelled, should be banned from Russia, right? And that Japanese, whatever Japanese media outlet refuse to go, they should also. But there are journalists from many other media outlets, by the way, from all over the world. More than 50 journalists went there. Well, that's interesting. DD Geopolitics reports that after the Oreshnik strike here on Ukraine, Macron called Lukashenko for the first time in a long time. The phone conversation took place at the initiative of the French side. The heads of state discussed the regional issues and Belarus's relations with the EU and France in particular. Okay. Yet again, why Zelensky is allowed to walk around freely, I have no idea, man. It's not normal. Trump just now published a post on his Truce social. Let's go through details, dear friends. Who knows what he wrote this time? Maybe he's declaring war against some other country now. Let's see. One of the worst deals ever made by our country was the Iran nuclear deal, put forth and signed into existence by Barack Hussein Obama and the rank amateurs of the Obama administration. It was a direct path to Iran developing a nuclear weapon, not so with the transaction currently being negotiated with Iran by the Trump administration, the exact opposite in fact. The negotiations are proceeding in an orderly and constructive manner, and I have informed my representatives not to rush into a deal in that time is on our side. The blockade will remain in full force and effect until an agreement is reached, certified and signed. Both sides must take their time and get it right. There can be no mistakes. Our relationship with Iran is becoming a much more professional and a productive one. They must understand, however, that they cannot develop or procure a nuclear weapon or bomb. I would like to thank thus far all of their countries of the Middle East and their support and cooperation, which will be further enhanced and strengthened by their joining the nations of their historic Abraham Accord. And who knows, perhaps the Islamic Republic of Iran would like to join as well. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Well, basically, what he's saying is that all these talks about the escalation with Iran is a BS. As I said in the beginning of today's video, when I was sharing with you information about this so-called 60-day ceasefire memorandum that allegedly Washington and Tehran are negotiating, Washington is not serious about the escalation. Neither globalists, neither neocons, neither their Zionist ally is going to allow Trump to pull out US from this mess. They will not allow Trump to do it, man. That's what I think. But we will see. We will see. Let's check RT, by the way, what RT is reporting. You can see fragments of these Ukrainian/NATO drones that were targeting that college in LPR in Starobelsk. It's Ukrainian NATO drones. And there maybe these drones were operated by Palantir's program, because it was a 16 drones. It was not just one drone that struck this educational center. It was 16 according to Russian president. So there can be no, like, it was not just random drone that due to malfunction just get off course. It was intentional strike on this educational center by 16 drones. Next round of US-Iran talks may be held on June 5. Al-Hadash sources reporter. Okay. Putin congratulates Patriarch Kirill on his name day. Trump is posting some crazy stuff on his Truce social. Some drone targeting bots. This is a grown-up man, 80-year-old man, and what he's doing. I already mentioned that Finnish President Stubb ready to represent EU in a peace talks with Russia, while he reports based on an interview. No. Moscow should say no, man. This is an extreme Russophobe, Russia hater. What kind of negotiations are gonna be then when there are Russia hater on opposite side? Actual Russia hater, man. How anyone? I don't know what Moscow gonna do, but I would not even shake hand with the Stubb, man. Iran ready to reassure order. It's not seeking nukes, President Pezeshkian stated in an interview. Macron condemns Russia's Oreshnik retaliation, but ignores Ukraine's strike on Starobelsk educational center that killed 21 students, injuring dozens and dozens of others. Of course, Macron ignores, and Macron and their European officials, they all ignore terrorist attacks that Kiev regime is conducting with assistance of these very NATO countries. So, of course, Macron will ignore that, and Kaja Kallas, number one diplomat in Europe, will ignore that, and everyone else. That's why I think there is no point to talk to globalists and globalists control their puppets in Europe. There is no point to waste time on a conversation with these elements. It's just waste time, man. Waste of time. Okay, dear friends, I think we had a lot of news today, almost 3 hours now. Almost 3 hours, and if I may, I will end the live stream on that. Thank you all, dear friends, for your time, for your attention, for your support. Have a wonderful day, and take care. See you tomorrow.